Google. Let's go get them again.
Welcome back to another episode of Samplin' Samples. One of my favorite episodes on my channel is sampling samples because I discover. And today, as you can see, we are sampling from the brand of Amouage, one of my favorite brands of all time. It is part of their exceptional Extrait collection, which is one of their newest ones, Purpose 50. So Purpose is a newer release from Amouage, and they decided to give it an Extrait. As you can see here, that is my collection from the Extrait collection. I didn't take out all my Amouages, but interlude, you know, I've done the unboxing and the sampling samples on my channel, but the other two, ignore. Reflection and Jubies for another day. They are just here for eye candy. They will go back to the Purgatory. Actually, Juby's going up there. If you notice the box in other videos, yeah, it's going back up there because it's a newer purchase for me. But Reflection is somewhere in the Purgatory getting ready to be unboxed and getting its first impression video. But today we are giving the spotlight on Purpose 50. Now, Amouage, favorite brand of all time, one of my favorite brands of all time. The Christopher Chong era is one of the best modern perfumery eras of just a creative director picking and choosing the right noses. And the great thing about Amouage, and I know there's a lot of newbies in this game that like Amouage, new stuff, but old heads like us that liked Amouage is because of a lot of things. Complexity, quality, blending was on par. But the great thing about Amouages were that they moved. They were built like old perfumery, which means a lot of new perfumery has a good introduction to like reel you in. And Quentin Bisch is the nose behind this. And the issue with me and Quentin Bisch is one of the major issues is I don't like a nose that can't give me development. Quentin Bisch cannot give me development. His development is AKIGALAWOOD and or Tonka Bean Balm. He uses Tonka Bean Balm for his juvenile stuff in the men's game. He uses AKIGALAWOOD for a lot of niche stuff to perceive that it's well done, but it's not. And again, just because he uses one compound, you know, one material, kind of like Jean-Claude Daniel uses ISO-E Super for Tel d'Hermès, right, but it's everything else that's around the ISO-E Super that made it magical, which is why he's so great. Bisch does not do that. And that's why Amouage, Christopher Chong era has this little piece of me that's just like, it was built like old perfumery where there's a lot of things going on. I can wear a Jubilation 25, which I've had since its launch, and still discover little nuances like in hour 6 or hour 8. And I'm just like, oh wow, okay, this is a little different. So going back to Purpose, and this is why the purpose of this video is Purpose 50, and let's delve into it. So this is a recent release. It is a flanker of Purpose, of course. I have not smelt the original Purpose. I don't even have a sample of it. And again, they just release so much, especially when they start releasing like 2 or 3 fragrances at the same time. And it's like 2 months later and they have another 3 coming out. It's just like, I can't keep up with them really. But Amouage, and I get called out for this, like, oh, you know, you hate all the Free Bottle Brigade brands. Well, Amouage is part of that. And, you know, and the problem with the FBB, and, you know, I like to use these videos because it's part of the FBB, is that 90% of the content that's online now, because this is like a super expensive fragrance, not everybody's gonna have a fragrance review on it. And that's the problem, right? Like, free bottles were sent to Redolessence, Max Forte, Fragmental, Stay Fresh Productions, Bowtie, all positive fragrance reviews, which consists of 95% of the fragrance reviews on this particular scent. So it just tells you how watered down and how, personally for me, if somebody's coming to me and saying, hey, is YouTube a good place to, you know, learn or you know, trust? No, it's not. It absolutely not. And that's just the cookie right there shows you that a new release like this, 95% of the content is Free Bottle Brigade. So how are we supposed to get like a legit thought process on this fragrance. A lot of them did shorts and stuff like that. But you know, this is where I step in because I can buy samples. I have the time. I got the platform. So let's get into it. But if you're new here, welcome to the Rose 08 channel. No BS, no free bottle from Amouage. This is all bought with my own money. And yeah, this is, you know, this is the kind of fragrance reviewer that you should be subscribing to. I don't mean just me. Like if you don't like the way I talk about free FBB and stuff like that, sure, you'll find somebody else. That's fine. But hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, much appreciated, especially for my work. Obviously, all that fluff is put away now. We're going to be talking about the scent as a standalone. And again, Amouage has a really good track record with me. With the new creative direction, it's hit or miss, right? They've done some good stuff, but they've also done some stuff that I'm just like, oh, this is where it's going. And they're doing a lot of, this is where it's going, a lot. And it seems like their new creative direction, Mr. Salmon there, likes Bisch a lot, which is scary. You know, going from him to what they've done in the past is kind of sad. So this was released in 2025. So let's go under the hood. Let's take a look at some stats on this one. Of course, 2025 release. Nose is Quentin Bisch. Of course, he returns. And I appreciate that they bring back the nose that did the original purpose. It would be kind of weird not having him create the newer release. But Quentin Bisch is overrated in our fragrance community. It's not even funny. But I'm an older head, so I've seen things. I know a lot more from the older perfumiers, so I kind of see that, and a lot of new eyes or new people don't kind of see that, and they think that Quentin is awesome because he's everywhere. Well, it doesn't mean he's awesome. Now let's take a look at the notes. Let's take a look at the top, mid, and base. Now on the top, we have incense, pimento, pink pepper, and bergamot. In the mid, we have papyrus, sandalwood, vetiver, and rose. And in the back end, we have that famous AKIGALAWOOD that he's known for. So we're gonna see probably a good wallop of that in here. Suede, vanilla, mystical, the wrapper. They wrote it like the rapper, and I'm showing my age, like Mystical. Who knows about Mystical? It has some pretty good songs, Mystical. It's got Danger and yeah, from New Orleans, that guy. Anyway, Mystical is a Givaudan molecule. It's a, it gives out an earthy, smoky, resinous appeal. And we also have saffron in this note breakdown. So honestly, it's starting to look like, again, I want to see if it's the silver frankincense that I'm used to from Amouage, or is it going to be something a little different here? But there is a lot of darker notes in here that I like to see. A lot of stuff that will give out earthy, smoky, resinous appeal. So is that what this is going to be? Now, the color of the bottle is green, so I'm thinking more earthy. I'm looking at you, vetiver. I'm looking at you, at papyrus. And again, mystical can do that. AKIGALAWOOD can do that. Incense can also give you some sort of, you know, lemony touch, as well as some resinous ideas, and of course smoky. So the mystical and incense could come together and make something nice here. So the major notes to my nose, I have to pick three. While wearing this, I thought that the vetiver was a big player, the incense was a big player, and the AKIGALAWOOD. Not a fan of AKIGALAWOOD, but we'll get into what I feel about the scent as an overall next. Let's go. Now, being a Bisch-made Amouage, I always caution myself to these kind of releases, especially for this price point. Honestly, I wouldn't purchase a Bisch-made scent for over $200. I haven't met one yet that, let alone the price that they're asking for these. I haven't met a Bisch fragrance that I feel is worth the money, and that includes designer. Even designer fragrances like the Le Male stuff, $200, you know, Canadian for that? No. And that's where I kind of, I don't rank Bisch very highly. He doesn't have the talent of Annick Monardo, Jean-Claude Helena, Bertrand de Chauffour, Dominique Rapillon, among others. The thing he lacks is he leans too much on the AKIGALAWOOD. He leans too much on this Tonka bomb and can't hold transitions well. He can't for the life of him to make an interesting dry down. And that's what that is really important. You know, your introduction just burns off after a few minutes. So after that, dry down. I don't care if it lasts 10 hours. If it's Tonka Bomb for 10 hours, no thank you. So he can do a good intro. I'll give him that, but things fall apart quickly with a lot of his scents. That is why I dislike his releases. And I'm not a fan of all the love he's getting in the fragrance community because he's got to step up his talent. He is not a master perfumier. Please do not put that stigma on him. Show me transitions. Show me a good dry down without AKIGALAWOOD and Tonka Bean, please. Now in Purpose 50 returns as a nose from Purpose, so that is a good thing. Let's put this one, I am wearing it today, but I am going to just dip here and remind me of the introduction. Kobe, launching. Didn't go under the door. And Purpose 50 is interesting. Now it starts us off with Incense as clearly the main player in this release. And with Amouages, you always want to see that silver frankincense from Oman. The Omani incense has a citrus appeal to it, while most incenses have a lemony feel. The incense from Omani almost has an orange tinge to it. Still citrusy, yeah. And you're getting that brightness here up top. The Omani incense also has a peppery touch to it, and it also has a conifer-like appeal to it as well. And of course, that smoky touch. Now, that is here. The incense here shows its citrus appeal a bit, but it's definitely a fresher kind of incense. It's not as dark as something that you'd go into the old Amouage library from the Christopher Chung era, where the early incense releases were darker. They had more density. This is like night and day in regards to that silver frankincense. This is the day version, while the older stuff is more of the dark night versions. Light on the trigger, yes, but still has some interesting facets. So again, as a fragrance reviewer, you got to get your positives and your negatives. You don't have to just wholly bash a fragrance unless it's really bad. And of course, you know, give it all its sunshine and 10 out of 10. It's not always 10 out of 10s. So this note is clearly really well done in this fragrance. I have to give them props in regards to that. You're also going to be met with some woody aspects in here as well. The AKIGALAWOOD does come in early. The sandalwood also comes into play, and the vetiver as well, and the papyrus, which can all give woody aspects in certain various degrees. So you will feel that with the incense and all the nuances from this incense as well. Like the theme of this scent, it's quite light, and I think the AKIGALAWOOD is more prominent of the woody aspects here. And anyone that has smelled AKIGALAWOOD, especially in a lot of Bisch releases, the woody aspect is very tame. It's not texture-wise. AKIGALAWOOD doesn't do it for me personally. It just doesn't give you those rough edges that a really beautiful cedar would in a fragrance. So that is your most prominent woody aspect in here. You're also met with spicy facets. Black pepper is shown here, even if it's not listed. This could come from multiple sources. The AKIGALAWOOD is definitely the one on top of my radar because AKIGALAWOOD does give out a black pepper nuance. Incense can also give that feeling as well. So we'll give it to one of those. I do get some pink pepper in here as well. I'm giving its rosy quality and fruity aspects, which makes this a little designerish a little bit here. And you're also getting some piquant from the pimento. Now, when I was wearing this, a few wearings while I was wearing this and dissecting this thing, I did get a little funk, almost like a little cumin-like spice in this opening, but only when I was getting close to the skin. So when I'm doing this and I'm thinking, right, I'm like, what am I getting? What are the major facets? I'm not talking about sniffing it in the air and going, okay, this is the major players in this one. Incense is the major player. That's what I get in the air. Now, trying to dissect this thing a little bit, I got a little funk. I got a little bit of that kind of like a cumin-like feel in the opening. Now, it was starting to smell like more like an Amouage. I was like, yes, with those subtle touches. I want those subtle touches. I want different volumes. I want different textures. In the opening, I had a few of those little Easter eggs in this fragrance, which was loved by me. I really like that. That opening was like, okay, there's a little bit of Bisch in here, but there's also some Amouage magic in here as well. So I was really, in this introduction, especially the first wearing, I was kind of like, where is this taking me? There's some really, like, where am I going to go with this fragrance review? That's where I was. Now, you can only smell this cumin-like funk if you're going like this. And even then, unless you're looking for something, like I was dissecting, right? I was trying to find what was, and I was like, oh, like I was looking for the pimento. I was looking for the pink pepper. I was trying to see how high these volumes are for the fragrance review. And I found something a little funky and I was like, okay, this is it. So don't get warned by this, by like, oh, there's like a huge dose. No. Don't worry about that. Now the opening is mildly smoky, but I would not classify this as a smoky scent. The incense isn't as resinous as you would expect from an Amouage, or as thick, or has as much personality as I would like to have. Don't think churchy incense here. Don't think dark. It also shows some earthy qualities that will be more prominent in the back end. So I got a little bit of that, and I got a little bit of slightly dustiness as well, which is welcomed. So there's a lot of little nuances in this introduction I liked. So this intro has that, you know, the AKIGALAWOOD gives you a little bit of that Bisch rough edges, right? You're kind of like, oh, right. But, and that part really doesn't blow me away, but it has some Amouage magic as well to it. So as of now in this introduction, I have to applaud Bisch because it's not the best introduction from an Amouage, far from it, but a very solid one to say the least. There's some slight complexity here, which is nice to see. So I'm going to give him his flowers here in the introduction, as it was not as simple as I came to expect from him. He has done some good intros. It's just it falls apart towards the end. That's the issue with Bisch. And here there was a lot more to dissect and enjoy. So I got to give him flowers on that. Now moving cautiously into the mid and the deeper dry down of this release is when things break apart. You start losing many of the small facets that made this scent interesting, personally for me. That's where the magic happens, honestly. It's the little nuances that make things special for an Amouage release. And if you go into older releases, the interludes, the memoirs, the epics, and all that, it's almost not about the primaries in here, because sometimes there's 2 or 3 primaries in an Amouage release. Here, the primaries are there, but it's what's around it that makes it interesting. Now, what happens here in the back end is the incense softens even more. Now, it's already thin enough, like there's some personality to it, but it's not as dark and dense, like I said. So it was already weak to start off with, but now you're losing a lot more of that personality in the small pieces of the incense. Now you lose lots of the spices as well. Pink pepper, rosy quality moves out of the way, replaced by an actual rose. So you get a rosy floral aspect. It's nothing outstanding as far as rose go, but softens the scent as a whole, honestly. Suede comes into play. And suede really came out of nowhere for me personally, and almost replaces the incense as the primary. I was like, huh, okay, so there's a transition here. I was like, okay. During some wearings, I almost felt like the suede was primary. I almost came into this fragrance review going, okay, the bottle's green. Amouage is kind of selling this as an incense primary release, and I can see it. However, the suede really took a lot of the heavy lifting, honestly, for me when I was wearing this. So don't expect much from the suede, okay? Don't think leather, think suede, right? There's no edges. It doesn't smell like you're walking into an Hermes store with all the leather goods. It doesn't smell animalic. There's no smoky aspect to the suede. It's not leather. It's suede, and it's like a designer suede, which really irked me a little bit. I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, think about 1 Million by Paco Rabanne. That suede that's in there, it's not leather, it's a suede. And it's coming back in the designer game. Like, I just did a fragrance review. What was it on the Spice Bomb there? Dark leather, where it's not dark leather, it's suede. It reminds me of that suede. And you're just like, oh, okay. So it reminds you a little bit of a Spice, yeah, a little bit like that. Now, I understand that the brand is going more mainstream, but like when you're asking this kind of price point, you're niche, buddy. You're not a designer fragrance brand. So you almost have to go into this going, what are you guys doing? And unfortunately, where the suede comes into play, the AKIGALAWOOD has a stronger presence with the papyrus and the vetiver. Now, you'd think there'd be a huge presence of grains in this scent with these notes here, but not really. It just gives you a dry, earthy quality. Don't think grassy or green, and vetiver, papyrus can do these kind of things, but from the bottle presentation color, I was expecting heavy green nuances, but never really correlated. The color of the bottle never spoke to me. The whole theme of purpose to me never spoke to me, and that's important for me, especially if you're spending $300, $400, $500, $600, $700, $800 on a fragrance. Me personally, when I'm spending that kind of money, you need to speak to me a little bit, give me a story a little. I didn't feel a story here. With incense and papyrus, even the molecule of mystical, watch out. I was expecting heavy smoke, woods, resins, but all three of these tame. All these facets were very tame here. Part of the disappointment here. So this back end shows more woods with the dry vetiver, AKIGALAWOOD, sandalwood, some smoothness. There's like creamy vanillic touch as well that comes into play. It isn't making the thing sweet at all, so it's not really a big portion of this fragrance review. It's more giving the scent smoothness, to be quite honest. But that's where these big chunks of this fragrance, and I talk about these primary notes and these high secondary notes that make a huge difference in a fragrance. And the little ones, of course, but once you start losing the small, interesting nuances, which I did in this fragrance, the big pieces have to be interesting. AKIGALAWOOD, bland vanilla, a rose that's not really that great. You got a vetiver that's standard. You got a papyrus that's not even interesting. You lose me. The suede is not a leather. You start losing me, especially at this price point. So this thing does last on skin, and we're going to get to longevity and the performance, but in the deeper dry down, you know, I'm talking about like 8 hours, 9 hours in, where most fragrances are in fumes. This thing's still pushing a bit. It's mostly AKIGALAWOOD, lots of vetiver, not green, more rooty, earthy, dry vetiver than anything. Rose and vanilla. More woody than anything in the back end, but nondescript wood like AKIGALAWOOD does. At this point, it lost me a long time ago. I was like, unless something pops up and makes it interesting, a resin or something, with the amount of resinous notes, like if you got more than one, you have like, I think 3 or 4 in here. I got none, like the incense gave me a little bit of that resinous quality, but not as much as I wanted. And that mystical note really is mystifying a little bit. It really didn't give me much of these notes that it talks about. So overall, this fragrance had promise. It did have promise. And it does have a little bit of interesting facets here and there. More into the introduction, mid fragrance wise. I'm talking about like the first block of like the first 3 hours of this fragrance. It had promise, but it really fizzled out a bit here. The greatness in many Amouages are complexity and uniqueness, and keep me entertained all the way through. Mostly they hold my attention all the way through. The scent profile, not just at the start, which shows a well-built perfume, right? There's a lot of people in this community that look at these old Amouages and look at them and go, this is a well-built perfume, like something that was built in the 80s or 90s. And I'm not talking about scent profile, but I'm talking about the build. The master perfumer build. There's something to be said about, you know, I'm gonna go into hockey terms because I'm a Canadian here, but you know, there's something to be said about 4 forward lines that can go out there and do something for you as a coach. You can run all 4 lines and they will do the dirty work, they will play defense, and you don't, at the end of the game, you don't want to start going, okay, I'm only running my first line and everybody else sit on the bench. This is how this kind of fragrance is made. It's a one-liner that the first line goes out, it's good, you know, it's good. It's not one of the best, but it's there, it's good, it's doing the work. And at the end, you got to start pulling back some of these lines because they're not playing defense. They're not doing the little things that we need. So yeah, it lost me on here. So this shows you a little bit of touch of magic, but it just fizzled out throughout. So just not enough for me to put it in the higher scores of some of these. Some of these will probably get some really high scores, I'm assuming, unless there's something really bad happening, especially with these two that I'm going to be on. That one's great. The blue one's great. I already know that. So the dry down overall lost me. It loses much of its personality. The green of the bottle, I don't know, you tell me. I don't get, you know, this is not a great green scent. It's not even a good green scent. There's no real leafy facets. There's no green real note. There is green notes in here. Vetiver should give you some greenness, but it really didn't. It didn't show me those green facets, to be quite honest with you. It reminds me a little bit of something that I tested out just recently from Tom Ford, which is called Bois Pacifique. Now, in regard to AKIGALAWOOD and Incense, because both of these have these in spades, but they're soft. They don't smell alike. It doesn't smell like the Tom Ford. I'm just telling you right now. But the way that the two major players in both these brands and fragrances that they released just recently reminds me of this, is that they're both soft. I think this one personally is better than the Tom Ford, and I love Tom Ford fragrances and I love Amouage fragrances, but this one's a little better built than the Tom Ford, which granted for the price, I would assume so. But the major players, like a lot of people say that the Tom Ford smelled like Gucci Put On 1, which, get out of here, get out of here. So there's a loss of those textures and that love in here. There is some good and there's some bad. So let's get into seasons, day, night, versatility, and performance. Seasons. This has some versatility to it. We're going to get into that, but fall, winter, and spring. It has a lot of facets that are softer. So here in Canada, right, I always talk about we have our seasons and we have them hard. You know, you get a winter, you get minus 40 Celsius. You're getting cold. This kind of fragrance would kind of get lost in winter, but I'm looking at the whole spectrum of people. You could wear this probably all fall, all winter, and a little bit of spring because it has that thinness to it. For me personally, I'd probably ditch it for winter. It'd be more of a tweener for me in Canada, where fall and spring would be best for this thing. The start of spring and the start of fall, like around there, it would work well. Once the fall starts getting really cool, like minus 15, you get some snow, but it doesn't stick around. I'd rather have something a little thicker, a little denser. Day or night, either way. I think in cooler months, you can go day or night with this one. Versatility, fairly average. Again, there's not enough bite here. There's not enough uniqueness to give it, some handcuff it a little bit on the versatility, where this could be a good thing for you. It depends what you're looking for in your niche fragrance as well, right? For me personally, now I have so many, and I mean tons. Well, I got tons of everything, but what I'm looking for at this price point now is almost low versatility, unless you're absolutely a stunner of a versatile fragrance. I will buy you at that price point. But now, for that price point with my collection, I'm looking for uniqueness. I want low versatility type of fragrances, unless, right, it's something that's citrusy, figgy, minty. Those are high versatile notes. So even though they're made great, they will be versatile by default, basically. Performance. Performance was good. And again, like these kind of reviews, it doesn't always have to be all bad, all good. You can say, oh, right, you know, it had a really good introduction, but the dry down was kind of Performance, longevity was good. 9 to 12 hours plus with a little sample like that. That's a win. And with Extrait doesn't mean it's going to blow doors off, and it doesn't actually, but it doesn't mean the performance has to be huge. It will be huge because it's an Extrait. No, absolutely not. I've had Extraits that don't do that. But 9 to 12 hours plus with, ready for this? Below average projection. So it lasts, however, it does not project well. It will in the first like 3 hours, give or take, but once you go from hour 3, and I'm being kind of generous here, honestly, up to the 9, 10, 11, 12, it's still there, noticeably there. And that's how I judge it, right? I ask people, right? Hey, you from the other couch over there, can you smell this? No? Yes? Maybe? Okay. Can you smell me now? Come closer. Yeah, I can smell. Okay. Low. That's your performance. So now on to my final thoughts and of course a score. So my final thoughts here, there's a little bit of that mishmash of Bisch, not so special magic here. It's still there. With a little bit of the Amouage magic. So there is a little bit of that put into one. It's like Make-A-Wish Amouage that kind of got it in the opening, but the more I wore this fragrance, the more it was on my skin, the more that Bisch came out. And that just isn't good enough for an Amouage. But a bad Amouage can be better than most. That is true. So if they're doing Extraits, I'd rather they go back in time, like they have here, right? The great ones. You got to go back in time. Give me a Memoir Man Extrait. You want to go newer? Go Overture. Overture is great. Do an Extrait of that. Some of the better ones. I don't know. I haven't smelled Purpose, so I can't say if Purpose was really, really good by its own. It could be. It could be. Just because it's a Bisch made fragrance, I don't just poo-poo it. I need to smell it. I need to smell it before I judge it. However, his resume, from what I've smelled, not good. And I'm judging him personally as a perfumier. When I see his name, I'm always like, oh no. Because I know what to expect. I know when I smell a Rapillon. I know what I'm going to smell when it's an Alberto Marias. He has a huge resume, but I know what he can do. And sometimes perfumiers do surprise me with their talent. So it does not mean I just come in with that concept of, okay, Bisch again, let's see what he does. And I'm always having an open mind. Like again, the introduction was probably one of his better introductions. Actually, it's probably his best introduction with any fragrance that I've smelled from Quentin Bisch. So I gotta give him flowers. And this is gonna get an okay score. It's not gonna get like the standard Amouage score that you expect from me, like 9s and 10s. No. So this one right here, now that the sample's done, it's always, with sampling sample, it's always like, sample's done. How do I feel? Do I feel like buying a bottle? I don't. This does not really excite me to see what, first of all, Purpose is, right? I'm not jumping right now and trying to find a sample online here of Purpose. I'll probably get one because I have a channel eventually at some point to test it and just see, but I'm not eager to test Purpose. And this is one of the first Extraits that won't get that bottle-worthy conclusion from me, unfortunately. So now I gotta give it a score, obviously, because you may not see this ever again on the channel. So I always like to give you guys a score. It kind of gives you a grasp of where I'm at with the fragrance. Now, you may take this as a fragrance review that's really, really bad. And I've done fragrance reviews that I'm just like, again, the brand, the perfumier, the creative direction, the resume of everything all together comes into a score. Amouage on my channel, most of the time, I have a really high standard with Amouage. If I had to give this one a score, and you would think this would be probably a bad score, it is for Amouage standards. However, there is a lot of good things out of it, but considering the price as well, it's an incomplete project personally for me. So I have to give it a score currently. I would give it 7 bottles out of 10. And the 7 is, you know, the opening, honestly, like the first couple hours, the opening and the mid, you know, once it starts losing steam, saves this fragrance. This could have been easily on my channel if that intro wasn't as interesting, a 5 or 6 from an Amouage. And I don't even know, I don't even think I've ever given an Amouage a 6. I could be wrong. I'm trying to remember. But they've been constantly, at least at worst, an 8, maybe a 7. So it just goes to tell you that really that introduction saved it. It would have been a 5. And I mean the incense, like a lot of the small nuances saved it. And the incense, of course. Ooh, don't fall. Okay, so 7 bottles out of 10 on this one. Now that you're my take, I'd love to see yours in the comments below. Good, bad, and the ugly, right? And again, let us know your truth. If you love it, you love it. And again, that's the whole thing with the fragrance community now is that plug it in. YouTube Purpose 50 by Amouage. And again, I named the names. Max Forte. All of them. Red Essence. All free bottles. Bow tie. Free bottle, free bottle, free bottle, free. Who did not get a free bottle on this one? Who's doing a review like me, just off a sample? Yeah, I probably spent like $10, $15, but hopefully I've helped out a few people with that $10, $15. So I'd like to see your take, good, bad, and the ugly, right? And on to the next one. And I know there's a lot of Bisch lovers out there that are telling me, yeah, try this one, try that one. He's great, this one's great. Eventually, they're on my list. And as always, a great pour fragrance will make a lasting impression. Choose your scent wisely. Thanks for watching, YouTube. Have a good one.